Welcome to Green Acre Virtual. It's wonderful to have you all here. And the event that we're having tonight with our dear friend Roman Orona is an extension of this art show, Chaga Nolosan, Walking in Beauty. That is Abenaki for Walking in Beauty. And Green Acre is located in the homeland of the Abenaki people. They're part of the Wabanaki Confederacy. And in a few moments, I will be actually reading a land and spiritual acknowledgement for our Indigenous brothers and sisters and the spiritual teachers that we are indebted to, actually. Tonight, as you all may know, is a film screening and a discourse space, a conversation space. In a few moments, I'm going to introduce our guest of honor, Roman Orona. We will be watching his short film called Prophecy. It's 16 or so minutes long. Then we're going to open the floor to you all. First we'll open the floor to Roman. He may have a few words, but really this is a lot about a back and forth tonight. So after watching the film, if you have questions or something that you want to ask Roman, or something that the video brings up for you, please raise your digital hand. Without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Roman Orona. Roman is a member of the Baha'i Faith and a Native American performer, dancer, singer, and flutist. He's a producer, a director, a podcaster, and owner of I Am Human Media. I Am Human Media is a national nonprofit that develops programs to address social discourse, create community, and unite humanity through the arts. In 2016, Roman was awarded the Best Male Vocalist Award at the Native American Music Awards for his album Circling Spirits. More recently, Roman digitally released Invocations, which combines Native American singing with Baha'i prayers. He also re-released a digital drum-only instrumental album titled Drum Awakenings. Roman also hosts a weekly podcast called the Indigenous Cafe Podcast, playing Indigenous music and discussing virtues from around the world. Now, friends, if you were not with us a few weeks ago, we had the honor of having Kevin Locke also with us as part of the Chaga Nolosan art show, which includes spaces such as this, which are really for conversation, discourse, learning. Kevin shared with us, as many of you know, a lot of people have started doing land acknowledgements. A land acknowledgement is basically saying, hey, we recognize that we are on a land that was once and is still the homeland of the Yaqui, or the homeland of the Dene, or the homeland of the Abenaki. Kevin is saying we also need to be paying attention to the spiritual aspect of where we are. Do we know about the spiritual teachers of this land where we live? So if you have not seen Kevin's talk, you can find that on our website. His whole talk was about indigenous messengers of God. If you happen to be a Baha'i, you may not know this, but I learned that Baha'u'llah never once mentioned Buddha or Krishna. Abdu'l-Baha did that. And Abdu'l-Baha also categorically acknowledged indigenous manifestations of God. What do we know about them, people? We don't know a lot. A lot of us, some of us do, some of us know a lot. And so Kevin Locke's talk was all about indigenous manifestations of God. The recording of that will be up on our website soon. You can go check it out. Now, he wrote a spiritual and land acknowledgement for us that I would like to read now before we get started. So this really is a prayer. Grandfather above, we acknowledge the holy ones you have sent upon this land to kindle the sacred fire in the hearts of us, your grandchildren. We are eternally grateful that in ancient times you have sent to Kanawida, the peacemaker, white buffalo calf woman, breath maker, sweet medicine, and a myriad others to breathe holiness and beauty upon this turtle island and your grandchildren here, and to teach us your laws and to enable us to draw close to you, and especially to love and cherish our relative, Grandmother Earth, and all that dwell upon her. In particular, We acknowledge the holy ones you have sent to the spot upon which we stand, and the nations and kindreds who have been the custodians of that sacred trust. We ask that you breathe upon and fan the embers of the fire of love and faith in our hearts and minds, that our footsteps may tread your path, and we may restore peace and order upon this blessed land. Friends, we're going to watch the video now, and then after that, we're going to pass it over to Roman, and then we will open the floor for conversation and question. All right.
We, as humanity, are at a turning point. That its choices today will determine the future course of civilization. Our prophecies have instructed us to travel out into the world and speak of the dangers we face. Our ancestral voices are important for us to hear because they speak from the hearts, to remain true, to live in the way of unity and diversity, establishing harmony with one another and with all living things. Soon the whole world, as in springtime, will change its garb. The turning and falling of the autumn leaves is past. The bleakness of the wintertime is over. The new year hath appeared, and the spiritual springtime is at hand. The black earth is becoming a verdant garden. The deserts and mountains are teeming with red flowers. From the borders of the wilderness, the tall grasses are standing like advance guards, while the birds are singing among the rose branches like angels in the highest heavens, announcing the glad tidings of the approach of that spiritual spring. And the sweet music of their voices is causing the real essence of all things to move and quiver. Let us shed our thoughts of old. Let us reinvigorate ourselves. Let us forgive. Let us become this greater humanity foretold to us. Let us dance together as one under the branches of the tree. That, then again, will the tree of humanity blossom and bring forth the fruit of righteousness for the healing of all. life will offer us the opportunity to become. The road is narrow, the journey lifelong. Know through your journey you're never alone. Through the dark, up the steep mountains, and through the dense forest. Your face of fear, happiness, sadness, and victory will be seen. No one but you can take this journey deep within. On this journey, you may want to abandon. Fear not what is seen, the path goes on. We have been given the ability to discern, the mental capacity to investigate the truths, the heart to follow, and the strength to endure. As we stay the course, the sun will break through the dark clouds. The birds will sing their sweet melodies. The true you will have been found. You have now encountered a true change within. This journey has delivered the blow. The spiritual warrior has been discovered from deep below. Stand in your spiritual warrior that the Creator has given you for your soul. Long ago, the Great Spirit came and gathered all the peoples of this earth and said, I'm going to send you to four directions. And over time, I'm going to change you to four colors. But I'm going to give you some teachings that you will call these the original teachings. And when you come back together with each other, you will share these so that you can live and have peace on earth, and a great civilization will come about. To the east, the red people, he gave the guardianship of the earth, to learn the teachings of the earth, the plants that grow from the earth, the foods that can be eaten, and the herbs that are used for healing. To the south, the yellow people, he gave the guardianship of the wind, to learn about the sky and breath, to know how to take that within ourselves for spiritual advancement. To the west, the black people were given the guardianship of the water, to learn the teachings of the water, being the most powerful element. To the north, the white people were given the guardianship of fire, to learn the teachings of the fire and its uses, remembering to know the destruction that can be created if it is not utilized correctly. Have we, as humanity, lost sight of our responsibilities? Have we given up on creating true peace on earth and building this great civilization that has been foretold? Why do we sit idle and wait for others to do something? Why do we blame others for the problems that we face as a humanity? Fulfilling the prophecies of peace on earth and the building of this great civilization are not only possible, but inevitable. Whether both are to be reached only after unimaginable horrors predicted by humanity's stubborn clinging to old patterns of behavior, or is it to be embraced now by an act of consultative will? The choice is ours. It has been promised that these fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars, shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come. The time is now to act upon this. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens.
And now the women. The mountains and the hills proclaim it, as it echoes through their valleys in a resounding assertion. The oceans and the seas proclaim it, as their unceasing waves bring forth its declaration. The rivers and the streams proclaim it, as their currents channel forth its testimony. The gales and the gusts proclaim it, as their sweeping gowns release the new decree. And now the voices of the women shall proclaim it, with their abiding gems within, asserting the equality of both the men and women.
Let me start off by just introducing myself. Danijoshi Roman Orona shije. Hello, my name is Roman Orona. They always tell us to make sure you try to introduce yourself in your native language or your native tongue, because your ancestors then recognize you as they've passed on. So, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for all of you for being here. Um, as it said there at the end, this is a stage performance that I wrote and created. Wow, that was back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. It's been I've had it for quite a while and traveled it around quite a bit, um, but it's still relevant, very much so, especially for today. And it it really was about the prophecies. It was the whole point of this was about indigenous prophecy, my indigenous prophecies, because I can't speak for all native people. And unfortunately, people think that when one native is saying something, that goes across the board, and it's not. I'm speaking on my particular um, prophecies of my people, the Yaqui, the Apache, and the Pueblo people. And right now I'm using general terms because there are sub bands within those, and so and that some of those things different. They're different as well. Just like languages in some of those bands are a little bit different, even though you're Apache. So I want that to be understood because it's not all native people. You have to teach. You have to work with each one as their own people. So, this was a parallel as a Baha'i. It was for those of you that are Baha'i, you'll see a lot of quotes in there that come from the Baha'i faith, but it is also prophecies of my people as well. And it's that combination. And that's why I created this, is because those two parallels, they're very much one and the same. My prophecies of my people talked about the Baha'i faith, the twin prophets coming from the east. And for those of you that are not Baha'i, the twin prophets were the Bab and Baha'u'llah. It talks about the 9-pointed star that they will be carrying. The symbol for the Baha'i faith is the 9-pointed star. So there's a lot more of those things, and maybe we can get into them a little later on. But I just wanted to give kind of a brief intro on that. So yes, prophecy was about that. It was those parallels, and the music is a little bit different. I try to incorporate a lot of other indigenous instrumentation in that, because you're getting a lot of North American indigenous dance in this stage performance. So you'll see the eagle dance. The very first video is the intro to what we call, or what I call, the grand entry, where all the dancers come in and dance all at once, and then from there it gets separated down by each individual dance. So then it would go, the second video that came on was a dance of the soul's journey. The soul's journey is about what we do here on earth, our physical being here in preparation to that next world, the world that is way more important, right? So we're learning here physically and preparing our spirit for that next journey in our lives, and that's what that was talking about. So when it's talking, and I can, if anybody has questions, we'll definitely can go, dive deeper into them. But it's talking about, that change within you and that journey that only you can take. This is your journey, and the people that come in and out of your lives, they come in and out for different reasons. Some will stay, some will teach you something and be gone, all of those things. But this is about you, that only that you can take. And that journey is between you and the Creator or God. That's that relationship. And so that was Soul's journey intro. Then it went into the medicine wheel. The medicine wheel has a lot of different variations of it, and so I try to combine again some of the teachings that I've been taught with the medicine wheel. And the whole purpose of the medicine wheel and that prophecy is creating this peace on earth, creating, this new world that we've been promised. And it's up to us, all of us as individuals and all of us collectively, whether we're going to get forced into having this great peace on earth, or if we're going to kind of start making the changes to create that. And that's all of our individual duty. What are we going to do? And I always tell people, and I always ask people, just a question for you to think about. Because one day, all of us will be an ancestor. All of us will have a legacy. What is your legacy going to be? What do you want to leave those future generations that may not ever know you? And what are those stories going to be within your family and your legacy? You know, when for me, when I start thinking about that, it really changes my mindset. And it's like, wow, I want to make sure that I am doing something positive for those future generations, those 7 generations ahead of me. And in my family right now, I mean, for me, I'm only 1 generation out. So what is that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th that I don't even know yet? And I may never know those generations. But what does that look like? What is your legacy? What is your storyline going to be for them? And so as we went on, then it started talking, I think it was the next one was about the women and the importance of the women. And that was a poem that my dad wrote specifically for this presentation. And that was his voiceover on it. And you know, you look at all those things and what he was trying to explain is the time is now. I'll be real honest, as a male, we have messed up a lot of things. And not because of failure that it's time, but because it's our duty as humans to have the equality of men and women. And for so long, the teeter-totter has been off. And when anything is off kilter, it doesn't move right. And in indigenous communities, everything is circular. So if you're wobbling, you're not getting very far. You know, if you're driving down the street and your tire, as it's turning, is off kilter, you're going to get really frustrated really quick and probably pull over and go, I just can't do it. And that's where we're at right now in society, in my opinion. We are completely off kilter. And when you're off kilter, why not time? For me, it's a great time to hit the reset button. But what does that reset button look like, and what is that going to be? So I'll open it up to any thoughts or questions. These are just my thoughts as an individual. I don't claim to have all the answers. I don't claim to know everything there is to know about my people, because we're constantly learning. And the traditions that we have at this day and age are not the traditions that we had 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. They've evolved and they've changed, just like us as humans, or just like us, for my people as indigenous people, we've also changed and evolved. Some of it by force, some of it because of we had to for survival. So there's many different reasons of that change and that evolution that we've had.
Thank you, Roman. We have a question or a comment from Medicine Eagle in Mason, Nebraska. And Medicine Eagle, I have to tell you, somebody emailed me about you last week. And now here you are on my screen. We got to talk.
Oh my, oh my. Oh, Ela Wangi, Jija, Kidamakan. Greetings, all my relations. My name is Medicine Eagle. I homefront pioneer in the Moha Indian Reservation in Macy, Nebraska. That you pointed out, Jessica, the first LSA, all indigenous in the Baha'i faith. I'm actually Anishinaabe Ho-Chunk, so I'm a long way from home. Someone posted on the chat, what's the prophecy for today? Oh boy, I can tell you. And it originates with my people, the Anishinaabe. For a little over 4 years ago, the seventh fire was lit. And the seventh fire signified that mankind was at a fork in the road. And one fork leads to materialism and destruction. And the other path leads to the spiritual path and survival. Each individual has to pick their own path. And even I can't say, oh, you need to pick this one, no, that's the individual's choice. Now, at the end of the seventh fire is the eighth fire, which is the greater peace. So we've got a generation that's worked out, but we're already over 4 years in. And it's why things are so at odds with one another. And the further people progress on their path, the more unlikely it is to jump paths. So it's going to be tenuous, but it was Standing Rock was more than just a protest against a pipeline, but the media did not present the spiritual aspect of that. They tend to be driven by materialistic concerns. I'm very big in indigenous teachings, actually, and indigenous culture. There's no difference between, and my apologies to the non-Baha'is here, there's no difference between the traditional teachings of the indigenous peoples of North and South America and the Baha'i faith. They are so similar, I would swear Baha'u'llah was an Indian. And the master signaled that it was the only ethnic group he singled out were the Indians. So we are in a very powerful time of indigenous prophecy right now. And I'm working the best that I can to fulfill the promise that if the Indian is properly educated, we can illumine the entire world. I mean, even the name Indian, a lot of people don't know that India was not called India when Columbus got here. It was Hindustan and a collection of states. The first reference of India was before he got here in about the 12th century, but it didn't start being referred to that on maps until the 17th century. So it was almost 200 years since Columbus arrived. So where did this name Indian come from? Well, Columbus landed on the island of Hispaniola, and the Taino people were there. And one of his soldiers severed the shoulder of one of the Taino males. And a woman ran out, packed up the shoulder with mud, prayed over it. The very next day, that brave was seen walking around. He had a crease in his arm, but he had limited movement of his arm. And Columbus surmised these people must be in Dios, meaning with God. And that's why in 1947, when the last of the hereditary chiefs were denied access to the United Nations when they were first getting together, they decided at that time that we would refer to ourselves as the Indians of the Americas, the people with God in America. But yet, political correctness wants us to be Native Americans, indigenous peoples. So thank you for letting me educate. I could go on and on and on, but we are in the middle of a very powerful prophetic phase, and the prophecies ended with Baha'u'llah. There have been no major Indian prophecies made since Baha'u'llah was on the planet, actually, and the last was really the ghost dance. So I can't speak for any of the other Indian nations either, but I hope I've educated you at the phase in which mankind faces itself. Weeble, thank you very much.
Yeah, as you were speaking, um, it is you're right in that well, you're right on several of those points. But the one that I'm really that popped out for me was that quote that you had talked about, and that was actually that's my mission in the things that I'm doing in my work. Attach great importance to the indigenous population of America, for there can be no doubt that they will become so illumined as to illumine the whole, as to enlighten the whole world. And there's a significance and why that's the case, because as indigenous peoples, we believe in our prophecies. They tell us about the unity of the world and the relationship, not just human to human, but human to animal, human to land, human to everything. I was just having a conversation at a performance last night, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about that the rock has an energy force that is used, and it's limited, but it has an energy force, and there's a reason for the rocks to be around. There's a reason for the land the way that it is. There's a reason for the trees and the water and all of these things and those relationships. So when you knock one of those things out and you pull it away because we've become so materialistic, and because we see land and water and air and all of these things that we can sell and try to make money, when you mess up the cycle, you got a wobbly tire. And right now, our access on Mother Earth is not good. And we see it over and over and over. When the pandemic hit, what was the first thing that they did? And this is not political. The first thing they did was worry about the economy. In my opinion, who cares about the economy? We should be caring about our fellow human beings first and foremost. Because if we don't have our fellow human beings first and foremost, and our relationships with everything else, then we have nothing. There is no economy. There is nothing after that. We have it wrong. And we're going down this wrong direction, in my opinion. And you start my dad wrote a book of poetry, and then on there, in one of his poems, it's called "I Am Inde," and this particular poem, and he talks about in there how as indigenous people, I am Inde means I am Inde means the people. That's what we call ourselves as Apache, Inde, and so in there he talks about how water now is lined with mercury. How we can't just go to a stream and just drink out of it like we were able to. And we have to drink out of water bottles. We have to carry charcoal in order to try to, or boil the water that is naturally occurring in Mother Earth. You know, those are the things that she gave, that the Creator gave, and it gave the power of Mother Earth to continue to give to us as human beings. And we've raped and pillaged and conquered, all for the sake of the mighty dollar. And it doesn't matter how rich you get, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, because the more you get as humans, unfortunately, the more we want, and the more we have to continue to whatever it takes. And that cycle is all wrong. Indigenous people were not about the money. They were about community. They're about sustainability. And we're going the wrong way. As my uncle said, we're at a fork in the road. And these forks are not going to go parallel together. These forks go in completely opposite directions from where I'm from my people. And you made a great point that once you get on one, it's going to be really hard to try to jump on over to the other track. Because these are not parallel train tracks. These are opposite polar directions of train tracks or trails or however you want to call it. But you're going in two opposite directions. Again, what is your legacy going to be?
Roman, we have a question in the chat from Cheryl. She says, I'm reading Braiding Sweetgrass, which was written by an Anishinaabe woman from upstate New York. Several terms and stories she relates are similar to yours, starting with Turtle Island. I understand what you say about not all stories are the same, but is it believed that some stories travel across the country?
Well, absolutely. And what I've been told is Indigenous foundation is very similar. Indigenous foundation is very similar no matter where you are in other parts of the country or other parts of the Americas. When I was able to travel to Japan and Thailand and Malaysia, and I met with some of the indigenous peoples from there, we exchanged gifts. And that's what you do when you come into somebody else's land. I come in peace. I come in with love. I come to unify and to meet you. And you give something. And so those foundational things are very similar, yes. It being about community traditionally is very similar. Everything that we do was done by prayer. So song was prayer. Making a drum was prayer. Taking an animal to be able to feed your community was done ceremony before and after with prayer. So everything that we did was in prayer, was in honor of our relationship with each other. It wasn't about taking out as many deer as you possibly could so that we could just hoard. No, we took enough to sustain us and allow everything else to continue to develop in the animal world. And it was about balance. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, very, very similar foundations, but communities, the thoughts, the way that in which the prayers are conducted or ceremonies are conducted might be different. And one thing that I've learned and what I've tried to educate people is I can't speak for other traditional or other communities, and nor should I be a spokesperson for any other community. One, because they haven't given me that authority to speak on their behalf. Neither has my community given me that authority to speak. So I'm speaking from my knowledge of what I've been given as an indigenous person of the Apache, the Pueblo, and the Yaqui ancestry.
Thank you, Roman. We have another question in the chat from Perry. Can you please share some of the prophecies that relate directly to this time in the history of the human race and the Baha'i faith?
So a lot of my prophecies, I have some written down over here, but a lot of them talk about the coming of this day and age, that we would come to a point in our lifetime where we will see division, we will see destruction all around us. We will see people wandering aimlessly, not knowing what the truth is, not knowing where they're going. There's just complete confusion. And everything is going to be really fast, is what we were told. And when those times come, that's when you know that you have a choice. That's when you know that it's time, your time has basically come to to an end of this old world order, so to speak. That it is now time to make the right choices. It is time to create unity. Because if we don't do it by choice, then the Creator will do it by force. And I have been tested, as I'm sure you all have, on just different things in life. And I do not want to be tested to that magnitude by the Creator. Because this being, this spiritual being that we call the Creator, God, is a force of justice. And if we don't rise up, then justice will be laid upon us. And I don't think it's going to be very pretty at all. But they talked about this time of destruction and all of this, and this things flying by you, right? You see the cell phone in every one of these, my kids included, and sometimes me. I want the information now, and I don't really have to go out and go and look for it and navigate tests to get to what I'm looking at all the time. I can just look on my phone and Google whatever I want, and boop, there it is, right? For the most part. And so they also talked about this time when you come to this end, when you come to this fork in the road, to make sure that you're grounded, that you have faith, and that you are in deep prayer during this time. And help each other out. We can't be walking around with blinders. And I think a lot of people do. You see, I see it all the time. People opening the door, they let themselves in. Whether they saw somebody behind you or not, but they never looked back to see if somebody was behind them, that they could hold the door open for them. No, right now, humanity is just selfish, and it's all about me with our blinders on. And if it affects me in a good way, I'm on it. And if it doesn't, but it affects somebody else negatively, I don't really care. And that's where we're going wrong.
Thank you. Kind of reminds me, it feels like so many people are in survival mode because there's so much coming at us constantly, and we're just trying to get by. And I think that puts us in a state of fear. And there's this quote that says, "Love can never dwell in a heart possessed by fear." And that's what reminded me of when you were speaking.
You can't do anything. You can't make rational decisions when you're in a flight or fight mode. I mean, that's all your mindset is either I'm going to fight or I'm running like heck. And yeah, we have to be able to step back, slow down, ground ourselves so that we can make correct and proper decisions in our lives.
Thank you. We have another question. It's from Kay. She says, can you share from your prophecies about the preservation of the planet?
With my prophecies, it's always been a relationship. It's always been that you see everything not as a tree, but it's a relative. You know, Mother Earth, right? Father Sky. Everything is family. And so with everything being family, that relationship means that it's more to me. I don't look outside and just see the trees and go, yeah, these trees weren't here. I could put a something else out there. No, these are my trees. These give me oxygen. They provide shade. They provide things not only for me, but for my relatives, the birds. And so that's how I was always taught as part of our prophecies, that everything is related. Everything is of the spirit from the Creator, just like I am. And if I take those prophecies and those things and put them forward and live by that than pulling out a rose bush because it's in the wrong place. I really got to think about it. Really, does it really make sense? Or clear cutting an entire forest because we need paper and we need all of these other things. You know, you can get along and do things, but you can do it in a sustainable way. And if we think about everything as in a relationship, think of everything holistically. By me clear cutting a forest, well, the animals that live there, what happens to them? I hope that makes sense. We all have to look at these things as our brothers and sisters, you know, as our family. These are our community, and they provide certain things to us. And again, sometimes you need to cut down a tree because you need to make a canoe, or you need to get firewood. But by doing that, there was ways in which we then planted another tree, or we looked for the trees that were dead that we could pull for firewood. Because if I take down a live tree and it's still fresh and still green, once I cut it and get it all down to firewood size, well, I can't just immediately go burn it anyway because it's still wet. And it's going to pop and it's going to make all kinds of smoke. And it's, you know, so there's all those knowledge that we were given as well as part of those prophecies. I hope that's making sense.
Me too. I saw a thumbs up. It made sense. This is a very interesting question in the chat. It says, if we as a people don't bring about this peace, how will we be forced to do it?
The Creator, I was told that the Creator will force us to do that, whether that's through war, whether that's through some sort of destruction, whether that's starvation, something, some atrocities will be so bad that we will not have anything else to do but to look to our fellow humans that are remaining, to look at them and go, okay, I need your help now. And them to me, yeah, I need yours too. And I don't want to get to that point. I really don't. I don't know what that's going to look like, nor do I even want to imagine what that's going to look like. Again, the Creator is all about justice. And when you don't follow the rules, there are consequences. And so, from what I was taught in my prophecies, it will be the utmost destruction. And if we look back, we've had several opportunities to rise up. We've had several world wars, and we've yet to rise up and become a unified world. We've had wars within America. Right now, we're split down the middle, and yet here we are again, having this opportunity to rise up and say, we need to, have justice. We need to acknowledge these minorities and these people. And yet, for fear or for whatever reasons, prejudice, fear, whatever the reasons are, we still fail as a humanity over and over and over. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I've been told that it's going to be complete and utter destruction. And what that means, I don't know. Nor do I want to know. And I honestly, I hope I don't ever see that in my lifetime. But I especially hope that we don't see that in any future lifetimes. Because it will be awful. See, borders, laws, rules, all of these things that were created out of selfishness. This is my territory, not yours. Right? I'm putting up a wall because I don't want those people over here. And I live in a community that I come in, I drive into my garage, I pull down my garage door, I go inside, and I don't see my neighbors. I see a fence around my backyard. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. This is not mine. This should be all of ours. What is mine, I should be able to share with my fellow community member. That's how tribal nations worked. I didn't, as a warrior, went and got a deer. I didn't get it for my family only. I got it for the community. And what happened was when we were colonized, and I'm not going to go down this road too much, but I am going to go down this road a little bit. But when we were colonized, that changed the mindset of community to me. Because if I had to sit in a line at 5 o'clock in the morning or before the sun rose, or I've been sitting there since yesterday because they're going to give rations for me to be able to eat and for my family, and then all you did was separate an entire community. You pitted everybody against everybody. And that's part of what colonization did to indigenous people. And so we're seeing this uprising. We're seeing this unification of these young indigenous peoples. But more importantly, we're seeing it from the women who are rising up. It's the women that are rising up and moving all of this forward. So you don't tell me that it's not time. Yeah, it's time. And we're seeing it right here before our eyes. But at the same time, on that other side, we're seeing this destruction. We're seeing ourselves just humanity just crumble.
Well, on that happy note, it's heavy sometimes, folks, right? It's heavy.
It is. And we have to get real about it. We can't sugarcoat it. You know, there's all of these things as, you know, cancel culture and critical race theory and all of these things. Listen, we have to be real. And it's not to make people or racists feel bad, because that's not what this is about. In our prophecy with the medicine wheel that we played earlier, we all had a piece of that puzzle. And we forgot to bring our piece back. And so that's where we got to get back to. And we have a lot of those answers as indigenous peoples, because we are from the earth. We are a prayerful people. We are a people of unification and community first. It's changed a little bit because of colonization, and I'm not making excuses, because I get on my indigenous brothers and sisters as well. Is, you know, hey, we have an obligation. So we have to start to rise up. And if you're not able to rise up right now, get yourself well, get yourself ready, because it's coming. And I just see it as, this is what I tell people. You've been out to the ocean and you've been playing in the waves nonstop all day long. And you try to stand there and the waves keep crashing and crashing and crashing. Eventually, you're going to give in because you're tired. You can't do it alone. And so I see these waves as the positive. And I'm looking at those individuals that are trying to be destructive and trying to go against the current. But if we get enough people, the current will take over. And then those individuals now become what I call the weeds of the garden. And I see the garden as the whole earth. And if the garden is strong, then the weeds are few and they're on the outskirts, because the main source of the garden is plentiful. And that's where we have to get to as a people, as a humanity.
Thank you. Thank you. Renee, I'm going to get to you next. I just wanted to say, for anybody who's wondering, a few times the word Baha'i has been mentioned. Green Acre who this is being hosted by, is a Baha'i Center of Learning. But Green Acre is not for Baha'is. Green Acre is for all of humanity. But a lot of people here are Baha'is. Roman is a Baha'i, so that often comes into our conversations, of course. But I just wanted to set that context for anybody who may be in here. It's like, what is this Baha'i thing they keep talking about? So I just wanted to make sure you all know that. And with that, Renee, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. I first want to say that about 25 years ago, me and my family had moved from North Carolina to Ashland, Wisconsin. And we were up by Duluth and somewhere. There were a lot of Native American communities on the outskirts. And I found something very in common with everyone that we met. And Roman, you are reminding me of it tonight. And there was such a sense of humility in the people. It was so wonderful. Even the little bad teenagers, they seem to have humility about even, you know what I mean? The things that they could stop and say, I mean, you just saw it, you just felt it. It was embedded in the people. And so I really appreciate all the words that you're saying tonight, and more than what you're saying, how you're saying it, because it makes a huge, huge difference. And it's nice to hear, you know, somebody honestly and humbly speaking from their heart. Also, I wanted to say about the destruction, if mankind, if we as humans don't bring this peace about, which I am not a Baha'i, but I do, and maybe that's why I don't believe that, I don't have faith in mankind that we're going to be able to pull this together. It all seems so cyclical, the craziness of the world. And I think God may have to step in and get it done. And I do want to see it. Or no, yes, I will suffer. I will suffer. But, you know, it's just like, yes, let me see his work. Let me see. I may not survive it. I may not live till that happens. I don't know, but I really want, because I'd rather be punished by God than these men, because they are crueler than cruel. And I know that God will punish with justice. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Roman, your prophecies. Thank you.
Renee, thank you. Thank you for being honest too. I'll be real honest. I kind of want to see it too. But at the same time, I don't want to be part of it. Like, I'd rather see it from the side, or from, you know, I'd rather be on the sideline and kind of watch it all go down. But I kind of agree that it if we don't get it together, God will, he will come down and make it happen. You know, and I think it's going to look, in my opinion, I think it's going to look like we did it to ourselves. But we did. You know what I mean? I was always taught to be humble, to speak from your heart, to speak with love, to speak with honesty, but speak with humility. And so I thank you for that, because as an artist, that's been my biggest downfall, is that I can't go out and promote myself to be more than what I am, right? And so that means I'm doing a pretty good job of trying to be humble and speak with love and speak with honesty, and speak with the truth. And that's how I've been raised. Maybe that's been part of the downfall of us as Indigenous people, is that hey, listen, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to do any of that stuff. I'm here to be me. But at the same time, as Indigenous peoples, we're a warrior people. And when push comes to shove, I'm not afraid. You know what I mean? And so, but that's yeah, I agree. No, we have to speak with all those things, and we have to have a character about us that is for not just us, or us as our people, but for us as one family. And that's what we've forgotten, I think. I really think that it's not really hard. We just, as humans, create roadblocks and get scared and do all of these other things. I mean, how many people have gone through multiple pandemics? Indigenous people have been through multiple pandemics. But we've had faith.
Where 75% of the population died.
Yes, correct, right. But we've had faith. We've had our prayer. We've had that trust, and we've still continued to try, even though right now a lot of Indigenous communities are like, "Whoa, who are you and what do you want?" Because we have to guard ourselves at this moment in time. But at the same time, we have the faith, we have the prayers, we continue to do a lot of our ceremonies that we do, and that's what's kept us evolving and moving forward as a people. We're not gone. And a lot of movies and just all this media likes Indigenous people in the past. But what's wrong with us as Indigenous people right now? What's wrong? Why do I have to wear feathers and have my face painted for you to accept me and like me? But if I go to a place and I'm playing my flute like this, what, I'm not Indigenous enough?
That's not real.
Anyway.
Well, we've got some hands lined up. I also
Perfect.
want to take one of the questions in the chat. It's from Gary, and then after Gary, we'll go to Nancy. Gary says, Roman, as a Native American, you had the prophecies from your ancestors about what to expect in the world. As a person who has become a Baha'i, how did the prophecies of Baha'u'llah modify or complement your Native American heritage? I think I hear you saying that some of the illumination that is prophesized when more Indigenous peoples learn the Baha'i teachings comes from the reawakening and deepening of your ancestral teachings. Thank you for your insights.
Yes. I mean, quick and short, yes. The coming of the Baha'i faith for my prophecies fulfilled my prophecies. It doesn't get any clearer. If you look at the Hopi people, one of the biggest prophecies that says that they're waiting the people of Baja. Like how much more clear does it get? You see what I'm saying? You know, and we can go on and on prophecies of Indigenous peoples, but I think maybe, again, I don't want to start speaking for other communities, but you know, for mine and the Diné people, they're very close, and it talks about those things. It talks about this coming of age. It talks about, you know, again, the 9-pointed star, the twin prophets coming from the east that will wear 12 feathers. I mean, how and the 12 feathers is not a headdress. It's the teachings that that are coming with. It even talks about look to the east, to the most holy mountain. I mean, so to answer or to I guess to answer it, by me becoming a Baha'i, it has made me, in my humble opinion, it has made me a deeper and stronger indigenous man. Because all the prophecies that we've been given have been fulfilled by Baha'u'llah.
Hello, everybody. This is a wonderful presentation, Roman, and a very important subject. I am Nancy Kase Waters. Kase is my Tlingit Wishkitan Eagle name. And I've been a Baha'i for 45 some years, watching all of this unfold. There are many prophecies, as you know, in the Baha'i revelation about this time and about the suffering that we'll go through before we get to the promise. The promise is that there will be peace. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. Whether we choose to go the easy way or the hard way is up to us, right? As you were saying. But I encourage people to read some of the Baha'i prophecies, because not only is God going to intervene and punish us if necessary in a just way, which I agree with one of the previous speakers, but he's also given us, he's intervened and given us a blueprint for how we can do this. You know, he didn't just make it vague, he made it really specific. Here's what you need to do. And he wrote to all the rulers in his day and age, and he said, get together, do this stuff, make a world government federation. And the only one who paid any mind was Queen Victoria, who said, well, if it's from God, then it'll prove itself. All the rest of them poo-pooed it totally and went down in flames, you know, Napoleon and even one of the popes. So there is hope based on what Baha'u'llah has prophesied and what his revelation has given us. And it's right that we can't do it ourselves as human beings. We're, you know, it's going to have that power of the creator behind it. Thank you.
Nancy, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because as a Baha'i, I am a believer of all the previous religions, because Baha'u'llah talks about all of those religions. They come from God, all the major ones. You look at, you know, Judaism and Catholicism and Buddhism and Hinduism and all of these things, and that the Baha'i faith says that these are all from the same God. And as indigenous people, we don't have or worship multiple gods, at least not my people. We worship one God and we pray to one God. And people ask me, well, don't you guys worship trees and yes, these are actual questions. Yes. I went to a performance and had a performance at a university, and a university professor said, oh, I thought you guys were all dead. And I was like, ha ha ha, thinking, funny, right? No, really. I didn't know that you guys still existed. Whoa, and you're a professor at a major university, by the way, in the Chicago area. So was like, wow, you need to be part of the sit down and watch this presentation, because we're still here.
I get a little of that because I'm so obviously white, and that is my background, Dutch and British and all of that. But I was adopted into this Tlingit family clan and greatly honored by that. And so then I had somebody ask me, is that legal? And I said, well, in their culture it is.
Absolutely it is.
But you get the weirdest stuff. And I'm sure I only have a little bit of it, compared to what people, but the issue of, well, you don't look indigenous, kind of comes up. And
I get it all the time too. well, you don't look indigenous. Oh, well, what is indigenous supposed to look like to you? What is your vision of my people look like through your lens? Because and I could turn around and be like, oh, what are you? Oh, I'm Russian and I'm this. Oh, you don't look Russian. You look I don't know what you look like, but you don't look Russian. Like when I see a Russian, I can pretty much say, oh, they must be, Russian descent. You don't look anything like it. So what, I mean, again, it's that vision of those prejudgments that we all bring, right? It's
well, all our
awful thing.
conversations enlighten,
But
just
what I was gonna get at real quick, just kind of bring it back, and I'll wrap up this comment because I see some other hands. As indigenous people, we don't worship the deer. We honor the deer in for the Yaquis as the deer dance. We honor the deer for the things that it teaches us. The agility that it has. The sacrifice by giving its entire body for us to eat and for tools. And it teaches us also about life and spirit and all of those things that we all have. We don't worship the eagle, but we honor that eagle because the eagle was the highest bird. And we would pray in our prayers, and that's why we use a lot of, and again, this is my teachings, but we would use the eagle feather and honor that eagle feather and the eagle as that energy force that could give and send our prayers to the Creator. That's why smoke is in indigenous, in some indigenous cultures, like in mine, smoke is very powerful. And the fire is very powerful because you're not praying to the fire. You're saying your prayer to the Creator, and those words, again, the physical being of who we are would see that go up with the smoke. So there's all of these different things that we use, but people think, oh, well, you worship the rocks and you worship the tree and you worship the deer and you worship this, you worship all of these things. No, we worship one Creator and we pray to one Creator, but we honor every single thing that is around us because it is in relationship to ourselves. They're equal to us, even that rock, because it has a purpose. It has an energy force.
Robert, we're going to get to you right after this very important question in the chat. And the question is, how can we support you and the work you are doing, Roman? Can we purchase the film or music? Do you have a website? It's important to support the work that you're doing and for your voice to be heard within the Baha'i community and the larger community and world as well.
I would love support. I do have a nonprofit here. Again, it's a national nonprofit. It's called I Am Human Media. You can go to iamhumanmedia.com. You can go to romanorona.com and then follow the links to I Am Human Media. I have a lot of things that I'm wanting and building. Finances is a huge part of that. So any type of donation that you give to I Am Human Media obviously is tax deductible, or any type of support. I would love to have, if it's not financial, I'd love to have some kind of support. This is what I do for a living. I create music. I write these stage performances and perform them. I'm working on another one right now. I have like 2 or 3 stage performances that I've got the outline for. So yeah, I would love and honor any type of support. Again, I'm not the type to go out and be like, hey, you should support me, because I'm not that guy. I try to let my words and my music or my things that I do be that light. And so yeah, any support, please, I welcome it.
Roman, does this mean that people can, I don't know what to say, hire you? That's not the right word.
Yeah, absolutely.
To come and perform at their school,
Correct.
at their conference,
Absolutely.
their anything.
Anything. Well, I shouldn't say anything because there are some things that I won't do. But I one of the things, especially now, I like to have some kind of talk or something to interact with people. So I usually ask for like some sort of meet and greet, get to know me, talk about some of the things that I'm doing. Then I would do the performance, or I do the performance and then have something afterward. So those are the things that I definitely like to do. I also, will set up my merchandise because I do have music that's out there. A lot of it right now that I've released is only digital because of the pandemic and everything shutting down. So it wasn't necessary at this time to purchase actual physical CDs. And I don't know if that people are still using them, but I still have them. I'm probably going to start moving toward like digital cards that you can purchase from me and then go and download it if you want. So there are other avenues, but yes, music wise, reach out to me via social media or on my websites. Become a subscriber. You can donate on there, or ask me what you bring to the table and how you can be part of this whole thing. I'm always looking for help.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Ida. We're going to take these last 3 questions, and then we are going to wrap up, as it is already 8:34. How the time flies. All right, Robert, it's all you.
Well, thank you very much, Roman. It's wonderful. You really have focused a lot, I think, on your humility, as well as the humility of the Indians and indigenous people across the world. And it struck me that that's really the key, is that if you're not humble, then you're trying to put yourself on the level of God. And if you try to put yourself on the level of God, you're going to fail because you are not. And I really appreciate that message. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing that up and bringing that to a point. There is a prayer that talks about it in the Baha'i writings, and it talks about it specifically in one of my favorite tablets. It's the Tablet of Ahmad, and I'm not going to get into it all. I'm just quickly trying to see if I can remember that piece. The piece that I was looking at, it was right here in front of me. It showeth pride towards God. And we all know that's one thing you don't want to do, right? And so it's one of those things that you definitely, as a human, we have to humble ourselves. We have to humble ourselves, because if we don't, the Creator will. The Creator will humble us. Whether it's now physically right here on earth, or as we transition into the next world, we will get ours one way or another. So if we think, oh, well, I've done all of this bad and I've gotten away with it and I haven't gotten arrested or whatever, you wait.
Well, I think there's the other part, and that is that we as human beings, and especially non-Indigenous peoples, have had this false feeling that somehow we are special. And we are. We are special, but we are special not in our place or our abilities. We are special in the task that we were given. And we've forgotten what that task was. The task was to take care of God's creation and to worship God in thankfulness that He allows us to help produce the continuation of this creation. We've totally gotten into this point where we think if we can defeat it, then that makes us special. If we can, and that's not what any of the writings, if you look at all of the religions, every religion I've ever looked at, specifically says that we are here and our purpose is to take care of God's creation, to thank Him for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much. And I have the greatest respect for everyone who is here, because it will be us that hopefully will plant the seeds. I do not think I will ever see the most horrible, but I sure hope that I have planted seeds that will help me and those after me to understand where it came from, how it happened, and what we can or cannot do about it. But this whole presentation has created a parallel in my brain. And I started to think back about the history of violence and the history of wars and the history of power, and came to realize that I think in most cases, it has been the women who have created the balance, but men have created the balance of power. And as long as we use power to mean greater than, then there will not be a balance, because our brains are designed to separate and to frame and to make a less than or greater than decision. It's only through the mind that you can sit back and say, no, I do not need to make this decision. It is a parallel, it is a balance. And if we can't reach the balance, then we cannot survive. Thank you.
Gail, absolutely. In all things, there's got to be balance. Water is good for you, but if I drink way too much water, I will die. Right? Air is good for you, but if I have to go to the hospital and get on 100% oxygen, I will not be able to survive. So there's got to be balance in everything that we do in our lives. And there's the reason why there was this balance of male and female in indigenous cultures. And as I say, there's male and female. And as I was talking to people yesterday, because I was playing the flute as part of this presentation that I was doing yesterday. So I had the deeper tone ones, which were the male ones, and I had the higher tone ones, which were the female ones. And I told them, and in between them are the transitional. They're the ones that kind of are between the two. And everything is in balance. And when we're out of balance, even as a human, even as myself, if I'm out of balance, then I'm not well. There's something going on. And so you're absolutely right. Everything has to be in balance. When you, again, take something out and away from us as a society, an animal gets endangered and now they're gone forever, it disrupts everything. It disrupts all of that in the animal kingdom. And with us within humans, because everything was given to us to survive. All things that the Creator gave to us were for all of us to survive, for us to be a voice for the animals, and the animals to show humans survival techniques and being able to sacrifice, and being able to be humble, and being able to rise up against forces, but knowing when to step down and retreat, right? And it's all of those things. That's like, if somebody comes at me with force, I'm going to go at them with love. And that's what we're not doing. If you come at me with force and I go back at you with force, well, now we're in this whole tug of war, and good luck. Well, whoever's going to have the most force is going to win. And then what? But if you come at me with force and I give you love, I've now completely stopped your force just by showing love.
Spiritual Tai Chi.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite analogies, and I've worked with juvenile delinquents for quite some time, also worked in some pretty difficult environments, including gang control. And one of the things that I hoped that I would teach, or that I would open someone's eyes to understand, that if you, as you said, if you have these two, powers constantly fighting, no one gets anywhere. But as soon as one person becomes the pillow and wraps itself around the force, that this one is going to either get so tired or they will relinquish that strength and realize that it is not doing any good to continue it. So wrap with the pillow and go on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you also triggered something real quick for me when you were talking. My people were matriarchal people. We were a people of a society that was run by women. The decisions were, a lot of those decisions were made by the women. Even though we had chiefs that were male, it was the women that ran everything. And it's the women in the Baha'i faith that talks about that if you have a man, a brother and a sister, and one is, you only have one to be educated, that it should be the woman to go. Why? Because they are the first educators of humanity. They are the first ones, because they will give birth and train those children. And so the women have to be, more, that we have to, as a male, it is my obligation to open up space for my sisters to come in, not because I hold the ownership of the space, but because we need the balance. And in all things, there's the yin and yang, right? There's the male female, there's always balance. And it's as somebody within that quote unquote has power, we have to open up space. It's our obligation. And right now, because we're in such a state of unbalanced in society, and it's male dominated still, even though we're starting to see that it's not so much, it's changing, but it's still dominated male society. We as males have to open up that space again, not because we own it, but because we need the balance.
Well, historically, I see women always having the role of the communication, the understanding, and I'll be a little bit blunt, picking up all of the pieces that were left behind and trying to make life feasible again. Women have had to learn how to balance in the worst of possibilities.
Absolutely.
Men may create huge steps forward and backwards, but until, as you say, the man can make the space so the woman can speak, I just hope that's going to be the future. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yep. We're going to take one last question, Sandra. She's trying to unmute herself.
This made me think of a saying. I don't know where I got it or how many years ago, but it's something like, he drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, and a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that closed him in. And to me, that's very Baha'i, wow. Very Indian.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Roman, are there any last words of wisdom you want to leave us with before we go on our way?
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to you and to everybody there for putting this on. This was a long time in the making, but also we were supposed to do this a while back. And I just really want to share how I can't even put it into words, how precious you guys are, that you pushed it back because of the things that my family was going through with the passing of my dad. And I just want to let you know how appreciative I am and my family is for that. So thank you, one, for putting this on and doing this, but for me, thank you, and for my family, thank you for pushing it back because of those circumstances. So thank you, and then again, thank you to everybody that participated and that signed up. Let's go out and let's do what we can, because it all starts with one. You know, and it all starts with one trying to do something and make this movement happen. And we're all in this together. And so if I can start it from Phoenix, Arizona, and somebody can start it from, you know, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and somebody from North Carolina, well, eventually we all, just like a fire, we all will combine our forces together. So let's all go out. Let's be humble. Let's speak the truth and be honest, not only with our fellow human beings, but with ourselves and where we're at. And let's get healed, and let's make this world a better place. Let's make this world that where all prophecies and all religions have talked about this great peace on earth. Show love. Thank you so much. My love and blessings are with you always. And again, if you want to show support, donate, get in touch with me, all of that stuff, you can do that through my website. You can also check out my podcast. It's called I just was going to call them I Am Human Media. No, my podcast is the Indigenous Cafe podcast, and it is on mostly all platforms. YouTube has it. My website has it. Amazon has it. I mean, Apple, Google, they all have it. And I travel the world, as I say it, playing indigenous music from all over the world. So take a peek, and anything that I can do to ever be of any assistance to you all, I will definitely do my best. My love and blessings are with you always, always. You guys take care.
Thank you, Roman, so much. I think I speak for everyone when I say that just being in this presence here tonight was life-giving. That it is literally, it feels like breath, like life breath being breathed into us. And I see some heads nodding to that. And so I appreciate you. I honor you. I thank you. We're very grateful that you showed up for us tonight.
And I'm grateful that you showed up for us too. You know, all of you, not just for me, but for all of you, just showed up together that we can all be part of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.